What happens when two forces of nature collide? One is a creature of the jungle, a symbol of brute strength, intelligence, and agility, the mighty gorilla. The other, a silent predator of the waters, armed with the ability to shock its prey with a force that could stop a human in their tracks, the electric eel. What would happen if these two animals, so different in their environments, came face to face? Can the gorilla, the king of the jungle, survive an attack from the eel's powerful electric charge? Is there any way the ape can defend itself from something so deadly? In this video, we'll dive into an electrifying showdown between the gorilla and the electric eel, uncovering the science behind these animals' incredible abilities. Stay tuned to find out how this battle would unfold, and if the gorilla stands a chance at surviving an eel's shocking attack. But before we get into the details, let's take a closer look at these two animals and see what makes them such powerful and dangerous creatures in their own rights. Gorillas are often seen as symbols of raw power in the animal kingdom. These magnificent creatures are incredibly strong, with muscular builds that allow them to easily dominate the jungle. A fully grown male gorilla can weigh up to 400 pounds and lift over 10 times their body weight. Their sheer physical strength is unmatched, and this makes them a formidable force in their natural habitat. But strength isn't the only tool in a gorilla's arsenal. These creatures are also highly intelligent, capable of using tools, solving problems, and even learning basic sign language. Their ability to think and adapt to their environment makes them not just powerful, but also strategic. Gorillas can use their environment to their advantage, building nests high in the trees for safety and navigating dense jungles with ease. Despite their strength and intelligence, gorillas are not invincible. They do have vulnerabilities, especially when it comes to creatures that are beyond their physical reach. For example, venomous snakes and large predators pose a threat, though the gorilla can usually fight back or escape. However, against something like an electric shock, a force they have no natural defense against, things could take a very different turn. A gorilla's immense size and power might not be enough to protect it from the damaging effects of an electric eel's shock, which could disrupt their nervous system and impair their ability to respond. Now let's shift our focus to the electric eel, one of the most fascinating and dangerous creatures of the water. Despite its name, the electric eel is not actually an eel. It's a type of knife fish that can grow up to 8 feet long. But what makes this creature truly remarkable is its ability to generate electricity. It's equipped with specialized cells called electrocytes, which can produce powerful electric charges. The electric eel can generate up to 600 volts in a single shock, enough to stun prey or deter predators. These shocks are produced by the eel in a series of rapid bursts, and it can control the intensity and frequency of the electricity it discharges. The electric eel uses this ability for both hunting and self-defense. When hunting, it delivers a shock to immobilize fish and other prey, making them easier to capture. For self-defense, the electric eel can shock potential predators, sending them fleeing or paralyzing them long enough to escape. In its natural habitat, murky rivers and streams of South America, the electric eel thrives, using its electric shocks to navigate and hunt in water where visibility is poor. This shocking ability gives it a distinct advantage in the wild, allowing it to survive and dominate in an environment where other predators might struggle. Now that we understand the power of both the gorilla and the electric eel, let's imagine what would happen if these two forces collided. Picture this: a gorilla is exploring the edge of a river, curious about the water. As it approaches the water's edge, the electric eel, lurking beneath the surface, notices the movement and begins to prepare its electric charge. The first shock comes suddenly, a burst of electricity surging through the water, striking the gorilla. In an instant, the gorilla's body would feel the jolt. The shock would disrupt its nervous system, potentially causing spasms or even temporary paralysis. While the gorilla is a strong creature, this kind of electric shock is something it's never encountered before, and its body wouldn't be able to fight back in the same way it would against a physical threat. The gorilla may react with immediate confusion or panic, as it struggles to make sense of the intense sensation running through its body. Its muscles might seize, and it would likely try to retreat from the water to escape the painful shock. The gorilla's natural instincts would kick in as it tries to avoid further harm, retreating to higher ground or looking for shelter. But what if the gorilla decides to fight back? It's possible that the shock might only disorient it temporarily. The gorilla, being highly intelligent, could potentially use its surroundings to its advantage. But with each shock, the gorilla's strength would wane, and it would find it harder to recover from the constant jolts as the electric eel continues to discharge electricity. This battle wouldn't be just about strength. The gorilla's survival would depend on how well it can recover from the shock, escape the eel's range, and avoid being immobilized. While the gorilla's physical power is unmatched on land, it doesn't have the natural defenses to cope with an electric attack in water. This is where the electric eel holds the upper hand, its ability to strike quickly and from a distance, while the gorilla's strength may not help it against something so foreign to its survival instincts. So, what are the chances that the gorilla would survive an encounter with an electric eel? To understand this, let's break down what happens to the body when an animal is shocked. The electric eel's shock can reach up to 600 volts, which is enough to disrupt an animal's nervous system. In humans, this amount of electricity could cause severe muscle spasms, disorientation, and even cardiac arrest if the shock is prolonged. For the gorilla, with a body structure similar to ours, the effects would be similar. The first shock might cause the gorilla to freeze, its muscles contracting uncontrollably. If it's unable to escape the water quickly, the repeated shocks could put significant strain on its heart and internal organs. It would struggle to recover, as each shock could interrupt its ability to coordinate movement. With its large size and muscle mass, the gorilla could potentially withstand one or two shocks, but the more it's hit, the less able it would be to fight back. However, the gorilla's intelligence and instincts could play a crucial role in its survival. Gorillas are quick learners and adaptable. Once the initial shock hits, the gorilla might try to climb to higher ground, seeking shelter away from the water. If it's able to get out of the eel's range, it could recover from the shock. The gorilla's sheer strength might help it overpower the initial disorientation, but the longer the encounter lasts, the more difficult it would be for the ape to maintain its strength. One important factor is that gorillas are strong swimmers, although they don't typically go into deeper waters. The electric eel is most effective in water, so the gorilla's best chance of survival would be to avoid prolonged contact with the water. If the gorilla could escape the eel's range, it might have a chance to recover and regroup, though the damage from the shock could still have long-lasting effects. But what happens if the gorilla can't escape? In the worst-case scenario, the constant shocks could leave the gorilla vulnerable and unable to recover, potentially leading to incapacitation or worse. In this scenario, the gorilla's survival would be extremely unlikely. So, how does this all end? After the electric eel delivers its initial shock, the gorilla would likely experience intense disorientation and pain. The question now is, can the gorilla fight back, or will the eel's shock prove too much for it to handle? If the gorilla is able to move quickly enough, it might have a chance to escape. The ape's powerful legs and strength could help it climb out of the water or find higher ground where the eel can't reach it. However, the damage from the initial shock might still be severe. Its muscles would be spasming, and it might find it difficult to think clearly in such a disoriented state. While the gorilla is strong, its reaction time would be slower after taking the shock. The more shocks the eel delivers, the less likely it is that the gorilla will survive. Each shock would take a toll on the gorilla's body, weakening it further and further. The eel, using its ability to deliver repeated electric bursts, would continue to put pressure on the gorilla, while the ape's physical strength would begin to falter. If the gorilla does manage to retreat and escape, it might eventually recover from the initial shock. However, the encounter would leave it vulnerable and weakened, potentially with lasting damage from the electrical attack. In the worst-case scenario, if the gorilla can't escape in time, the repeated shocks would eventually overwhelm it, leaving the ape helpless against the eel's power. Ultimately, the outcome of this showdown depends on whether the gorilla can escape the eel's reach before the repeated shocks cause irreversible harm. It's a battle where both animals' strengths come into play, but in the end, the electric eel's ability to continuously deliver shocks gives it a serious advantage over the gorilla's sheer power and intelligence. So, after considering everything, what's the final verdict? Would a gorilla survive an electric eel attack? While the gorilla's sheer strength and intelligence make it one of the most formidable creatures in the jungle, when faced with an electric eel, the odds are stacked against it. The electric eel's ability to deliver powerful and repeated shocks would overwhelm the gorilla, especially given that it has no natural defense against electricity. If the gorilla is able to escape the water quickly enough, it might have a chance to recover and survive, but the damage from even one shock could severely weaken it. The longer the encounter lasts, the less likely the gorilla would be able to fight back or escape. In the end, the eel's ability to continuously deliver electrical shocks gives it a major advantage, making it a dangerous adversary for the gorilla. However, we can't forget the resilience and adaptability of gorillas. They are incredibly intelligent and resourceful creatures, and if given the opportunity, the gorilla could potentially find a way to avoid the eel and escape. But in a direct confrontation, the electric eel's power would likely be too much for the gorilla to withstand. So, could the gorilla survive? It's unlikely, especially if the eel manages to keep delivering those shocks. But if the gorilla can escape the water and recover, it might live to fight another day. What do you think? Would the gorilla have a chance against the electric eel, or would it be overpowered by the shocking force of nature?